They came like a bolt out of the blue to discuss everything in geekdom. When Andy and Mike get together, it is the attack of the 50-foot nerds.
Hello and welcome to episode 2 of Attack of the 50-Foot Nerds. My name is Mike Bell and with me as always is my co-host
Andy Weirs.
And welcome to the second episode, as I say, of Attack of the 50-Foot Nerds. If you have any stories that you want us to look into or anything that you want to send over to us, you can always contact us via Twitter, via our account, which is at 50footnerds, okay, all words, no numbers, or you can email us at 50footnerds, again all words, at gmail.com. Anything you want, get in touch with us via that. So, so how are you then, Andy? Have you been well?
Yeah, not bad. Been at work having my brain melted by trying to come up with new work rotas, and also been to the cinema yesterday as well, but we're not going to talk about that this episode.
No, we're not. Yes, the pair of us went to see Avengers, or as they call it in the UK, Avengers Assemble this week. As Andy's just mentioned there, we're not going to talk about it in this episode because you're very lucky, listeners. We've got a special Avengers Assemble review episode coming up for you very, very soon. Okay, so everything about the Avengers that you want to know, our opinions, will be covered in that.
Yep.
So we're going to move straight into the actual meat and potatoes of the pod, and we're going to start with, as always, with people news.
Shriek in terror! It's time to discuss people in geekdom.
Okay, so we're going to jump into our first story, which, Andy, have you seen, and I know your history for not actually seeing films, have you seen Machete?
No.
There we go. Right. Well,
I've wanted to see it, but I've never actually had a chance to get around to actually seeing it yet.
Well, you should, because it's a cracker of a film. I mean, brief history of it, Grindhouse, the Tarantino, Robert Rodriguez double feature. In that, they did a bunch of fake trailers, one of which was about a story called Machete. Danny Trejo's character is set up and goes on a rampage to get revenge on the people who set him up. Well, at the end of that film, it does, like all the end of the Bond films, James Bond will return in, well, they did.
Machete will return in. Machete kills. And Machete kills again.
So they've set up 2 sequels, and word has come through this week that the first sequel, Machete Kills, which is actually filming at the moment, has landed a cast member in the form of Mel Gibson.
Ah.
Yes, I'll Sugar Tits himself has decided to jump in, and we don't particularly know which character he's going to play yet. I know he's been talking recently that he wants to get into more of a villainous role in his acting, having played, obviously, quintessential action heroes in the 80s and early 90s. Obviously, getting into directing later in his career, and now is probably more well known for his rants on the internet. But obviously, we're not going to touch the actual.
No.
No, we're not going to go into what the rants involve. Needless to say, he doesn't like many people. So to get him actually into Machete, I think is kind of. It might be quite a good move, certainly in terms of publicity.
It'd probably be a better move for him than the Beaver. but then everyone will be like, well, he makes the perfect villain. Why? Because he's a racist.
Because everyone hates him. Why do they hate him? Because he hates everyone.
That's probably why they cast him, because he's going to be the easiest person to sort out. They don't have to teach him any of the lines. All they have to do is go, right, stand there, here's a load of alcohol, and then just say whatever you want.
Just bring in Mexicans in to stand in front of him, just record his reaction.
Exactly. They'll just get Danny Trejo to stand at one end of the room. He'll stand at the other end. They'll put like a glass screen in the middle and just put a camera on each of them. And while Danny Trejo's acting the proper thing, they'll just get Mel Gibson drunk, so he's just randomly yelling shit at him.
Hey, you with the knives! I hate you! I hate you! Fuck off back to your own country, you dirty little scrub.
Random shit like that, yeah.
And just,
I mean, they wouldn't even have to try.
Just have Danny Glover next to him, just shaking his head.
Oh God.
Well, that is certainly something I would like to see. So let's hope that Machete Kills comes out as a tenth as good as it possibly could do. Going to move on to, because we're going to speed through this episode, because I know you have to get to work, sir. So we're going to move on to our next person in the news, which is our good old friend, Mr. Stan Lee. Stan. Oh, Stan. Stan Lee has revealed, this is a story from Digital Spy, Stan Lee has revealed that once upon a time he was embarrassed about admitting to people that he was a comics writer. Now, this is the guy who invented Spider-Man, invented the X-Men, invented the Incredible Hulk, obviously co-created with Jack Kirby, a lot of them. But, you know, this guy invented some of the world's greatest superheroes and was ashamed to mention it. You know, you can imagine being at a party, it's like, oh, what's your name? My name's Stan Lee. What do you do? I've got to go over here now.
Yeah.
There's a reason they call him Stan the Man, because everything he touched in the 60s turned to gold. We wouldn't have the Avengers movie now if it weren't for Stan Lee.
Exactly. I mean, like he says in that thing, before the big two started, comics didn't really have much ground in pop culture, or if they were just like little kids' books or whatever.
There's a reason they were called the funny books.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the only thing that Stan's been talking about this week. As Stan has been giving his views on what he would like to see in an Avengers sequel, or rather who he would like to see in an Avengers sequel. Stan has named the 3 top characters he'd like to see as Black Panther, Doctor Strange, and Ant-Man in Avengers 2. So whether or not they would go down the Marvel route of doing solo films for each of them first, I know that the Ant-Man movie has been in pre-production for a long, long time. As we covered last time, there's a possible Doctor Strange movie on the cards. Do you think a Black Panther solo movie would work, or do you think they should just do like they've done with Hawkeye, put him straight into the Avengers?
To be honest, I'm not too familiar with Black Panther as like an individual character, but I reckon they could probably do one, or do like what they were talking about with the Doctor Strange thing and doing like a short feature on one of the other DVDs, or like short story before a main feature or something, and then put him in the next Avengers or something.
Yeah. I don't know if maybe this is just me, but I don't know if the cinema going public as a whole would want to sit and watch a 2-hour movie about an African prince who dresses up like a Black Panther. I mean, it's okay in the comic books, but would people want to go and see it? I honestly don't think that it...
That's why I reckon it'd probably be best with the short film type thing, because compared to in the first Avengers, where the only introduction you got to Hawkeye was his little bit in Thor, but other than that, you just had the actual film to go off. So I was thinking if they did like the short 15-minute film just establishing who he is, and maybe on a mission or something, which then they could retouch in the Avengers 2 film.
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever read Ultimates Volume 3, in that, basically at the start of that story, Black Panther is just there. There's no explanation as to where he came from, what he's doing, he's just there. I mean, but mostly by the end of the story, you realise what the character really is, and I won't say for spoilers, but he's just there. I mean, you couldn't get away with that in a movie, clearly, but that's how they introduced him in that. But as I say, I don't think they could dare do it in a movie. But enough Avengers talk. Obviously, that's not a story for another time. We're going to move on now to the next section, which is obviously our movie news.
Thrills and chills abound in movie news.
Okay, so the first story that we've got in the movie news today, well, at the risk of asking this question once again, have you seen Rise of the Planet of the Apes, sir?
Guess what my answer is? No.
See, I'm going to slap you if you don't watch more films. Well, we got the news this week that they are indeed moving ahead with a sequel to The Rise of the Planet of the Apes, and it's going to be going into production before the end of summer. So probably in the next couple of months, we're going to get moving on that. Now, if you've seen the end of Rise of the Planet of the Apes, which I know you haven't, I mean, spoilers, it kind of wraps everything up quite nicely. That we don't need a follow-up story, because if you've seen the first Planet of the Apes movie, you know that the apes obviously took over the planet. And you see the beginnings of that at the end of Rise. So why they need a sequel to it, I honestly don't know. I really don't know where you could go with a story from it.
unless they've been listening to Kevin Smith, because he was like, well, they just in that film they basically just took over a city and they didn't show anywhere else. So maybe the sequel's actually going to show what's happened simultaneously in like other places around the world or something.
But the way the story is in Rise is you can't have that same story happening elsewhere. It won't work. I mean, in Rise there is the again, spoilers if you're not seeing it, but there is the beginnings of a possible plague that could wipe out mankind. It's very much hinted at, but it's certainly something that could happen, and, you know, I suppose the sequel could follow down that route. But, you know, mankind is battling against the plague. What are the monkeys doing? And obviously, if you want to Planet of the Apes movie, you want to be able to see what the apes are actually up to.
Yeah.
But the main thing is that Andy Serkis, obviously, we would hope he comes back, because he's phenomenal in Rise. How he didn't get award nominations, you know, at the Oscars or anything like that, I've no idea. Because as much as you are seeing a CGI creature on screen, you're seeing Andy Serkis. His performance is all in there, and it's phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. But he's busy off filming Lord of the Rings at the moment. Now, obviously...
The Hobbit.
The Hobbit. He's filming The Hobbit at the moment. Now, he's only got a small amount to do if he's only playing Gollum, which I believe they've actually already shot that, because I think there was an industry event recently where they showed... they showed
like 10 minutes of The Hobbit.
That's right, yeah.
In the 48 frames per second.
That's right, they did the Riddles in the Dark sequence, which is the Gollum sequence, if you know the books.
Yeah.
So clearly they've already shot that. So what else is Andy up to? We don't know, but I say apparently it has to fit around his Hobbit schedule, so he must be doing more.
He's doing the CGI for Smaug.
Is he?
I have no idea.
Right.
But
I thought you were... I thought you were telling me something I didn't know then.
No, I just had a mental image of him in front of a CG screen flapping his arms about like... Well,
I know that Benedict Cumberbatch is doing the voice of Smaug.
Oh, seriously?
Oh, yeah. Because I remember when the news came out, everyone was like, oh, there's going to be a scene where Watson and Sherlock are talking to each other, because obviously Bilbo speaks to Smaug. And Bilbo being played by Martin Freeman, who plays Watson to Cumberbatch's Holmes. I'd heard that there was possibly that Cumberbatch would be doing... they'd be doing some kind of facial animation, where they put the dots on it, motion capture for the face as well. So, but
the only way, but how would that work?
Well, you just, and the dots, they do like extensions on it and what have you, and they tweak it afterwards. But you'd have the basis of a model,
Yeah. I was going to say, because all they'd be able to do really is just follow how his mouth is moving and make Smaug's mouth move at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, they could do it similar to, I mean, obviously Planet of the Apes, a monkey's face, while similar, is different to a human's face. Obviously, they've had to go in and tweak something on Andy Serkis in that film, so, it's just an extension of that into making it a dragon's face.
Yeah, it's just I'm thinking with a massive snout, that's all.
Yeah. Well, if you've seen Cumberbatch, his face kind of looks like a dragon's face anyway, but without the snout. He does. He's weird. He looks like a dragon whose snout has been pushed into his face. So, well, that's Planet of the Apes anyway. The next story that I've got going on here is now something we touched on in the last pod was the movie Chronicle, which I hadn't actually seen at the time, but I have now. Well, the director of Chronicle, Josh Trank, has been confirmed he's starting to work on Fantastic Four, the reboot of Fantastic Four over at Fox. Now, they've not confirmed whether or not his work would involve directing the movie, or whether it's just producing, helping develop the script. But yeah, Fox definitely pushing ahead with a Fantastic Four reboot, and this guy clearly knows how to, film superpowers.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what do you think to that, a reboot of the old Fantastic Four?
Well, I didn't mind the first Fantastic Four film. I think the one with Galactus, I was intrigued by how they approached Galactus, but they were saving like a proper big reveal of Galactus for a Silver Surfer movie that never happened.
Yeah, I was very disappointed by Fantastic Four too. I thought the Silver Surfer was cracking. I thought he was spot on.
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
They just really let us down on the Galactus reveal. Absolutely let us down.
Yeah, and the fact that Dr. Doom showed his face.
I never liked their version of Doom anyway, even in the first one. I thought the first one was a good origin for them.
Yeah.
But when they got back down to Earth, that's when it all went to shit. with Doctor Doom. It just didn't work.
Well, we'll see what the plans are for the remake, because they'll probably redo the origins again.
Of course they will.
Although I'm hoping that they'll do like we said with the Spider-Man one, or like maybe Turtles, like origin or whatever, and just
get it out the way in the first
like
15,
in the first like 10-15 minutes, rather than it being like the first half of the film.
Well, that's the thing about Fantastic Four, because they're not as well known to the public at large. I mean, everyone knows Spider-Man. How did he get his powers? Bitten by a radioactive spider. Batman parents are killed. We all know these kind of things. The Fantastic Four's origins aren't as well documented to a lot of people. In as much as, if I went up to someone in the street now and say, how did the Fantastic Four get their powers? They wouldn't say, oh, they were bombarded by cosmic rays and blah, blah, blah. People wouldn't say that. People are like, oh, I don't know, most likely. But, so we probably will have to go over some of that again. But, I mean, I'd quite like them to do how they did in the Ultimate Universe, which I think is, because it's newer, I think it's more grounded in reality. In that, Reed Richards is looking into the negative zone, and there's an accident at the Baxter Building, I think it is, where the negative zone controls get out of hand, and everything. I think they get caught in like an explosion of his machine, and that's what gives them the powers. They cross through the negative zone or something like that. Again, it's been a while since I've read it, and I'm sure we'll get an email moaning at us saying you got it wrong. But the comics are I can see my cupboard here where it is. I just can't be bothered going to get them out. So anyways, Josh Trank. The action that they had in Chronicle, if he could do that with the Fantastic Four, I'd be interested to see that.
Yeah.
Now, from one Marvel movie over at Fox to another, the good old Wolverine movie, that is, from what I'm hearing, is set outside of the X-Men continuities. It's kind of been done as its own thing.
All right.
Yeah, they've said that it's not going to follow on from X-Men Origins. That's why it's not called Wolverine 2, it's just called The Wolverine. But they've confirmed now, even though this was set up at the end of Origins, they've confirmed now that they are going to film with Wolverine in Japan.
Cool.
So we know what that means then.
That means they're going to they'll probably have the whole love story where he meets the
Mariko.
That's
well, I was thinking more along the lines of we're going to have the Silver Samurai.
Ooh, yeah.
And possibly get Lady Deathstrike back in, but as she
it was Lady Deathstrike I was thinking of.
Oh right, okay, yeah, that's Yuriko. There's a difference. So that's going to be getting shot in Japan. I believe the expected release date of that movie is July the 26th, 2013. So they're going to
day before my birthday next year.
Oh, there you go, listeners. Remember that. So they're going to have to get moving on that pretty soon then, because obviously the amount of CGI needed in X-Men film, definitely. As it's hopefully outside of continuity, then that means they won't be able to balls everything up by putting Gambit in it again and all that nonsense. That's just, some of the cameos in Origins are just weird.
Deadpool again.
Oh, don't even speak to me about that. That's not Deadpool for me.
Though Ryan Reynolds has gone on record as saying if they do a Deadpool movie, it should have nothing to do with X-Men Origins. They should ignore that. And
well, have you read the script for the Deadpool movie?
No, I didn't know I could.
Oh, it's leaked. It's online somewhere. It's brilliant. It's absolutely fantastic. Yeah. I'm
going to have to look that up then.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to give away on the show how I've seen it, but I have read it and it's very good.
I shall do some research.
Mm-hmm. Moving on then, we're going to head to, as we discussed last time, a movie that we're keeping an eye on, which is Total Recall.
Yep, I was slightly more enthused for it than you were.
Total Remake.
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, it's been confirmed this week that the new movie, the remake by Len Wiseman, has been confirmed at CinemaCon, which is the industry event I mentioned earlier. That they screened a piece of footage from the movie, and it includes the three-breasted hooker.
Hey.
Yes, everyone's favourite moment from the original. Now, from the Digital Spy, which quotes from the Entertainment Weekly article, Len Wiseman's sequence included Colin Farrell asking a three-breasted woman for directions to the recall memory facility. You seem like you're looking for something, the woman reportedly says, before opening her blouse and adding, "Is it this?" She also reprises the original's "Wish you had 3 hands" line, which is actually said to Benny in the original. But, oh no, Benny says it to her, doesn't he? He goes,
"Baby, you make me wish I had 3 hands."
Well, I think you're doing just fine with 2.
But, yeah, so they've kind of moved it off of Mars, though. Because from the sounds of it, it's on Earth if he's going to the recall facility. No, so that makes me wonder, because from the trailer, I didn't see much of Mars in there at all.
No,
so,
I just presumed it was like, instead of just being like little pockets of civilization built in domes on Mars or whatever, I thought it had just been like, it was sprawled all over as like one massive facility or something. Maybe that was what I thought. But then,
how could you have the?
You're right. Yeah. It's not really clear as to whether it's still on Mars or on Earth or. I mean,
if it's all taking place on Earth, then you're gonna lose that classic moment of
get your ass to Mars.
Yeah, but like we said last time, it's not gonna. That's the problem. It's gonna lose a lot of the quotability factor anyway, just because of the fact that it's remaking, and if it keeps all those lines, it's going to be like, basically they just ripped off half the script from the first one.
Colin Farrell in his entire career has only had one line that I will quote to anyone, and that is in Daredevil when he points to himself and he goes, "I want a fucking costume." That's the only time he's ever got a line I will quote to anyone. Yeah, so we're going to have the three-breasted woman, which doesn't really make sense if she's on Earth, because in the original, they say but the reason for the mutations is because of the shitty air in the domes on Mars.
Well, they can just make some other thing up about... Because it's still set in the future, so it can just be like radiation in certain areas and stuff like that.
Good old movie logic.
Yeah.
Well, it's Spider-Man time. We're going to discuss the sequel to the Amazing Spider-Man movie, which will be out this summer, which is Andrew Garfield in it, and... it's already been confirmed that they're going to go ahead with Amazing Spider-Man 2. That's how impressed they seem to be at the moment with the footage that we're getting from Mark Webb's production. And the studio has hired a couple of writers already, which may be familiar names if you keep your hand into geekdom. And those names are Alex Kurtzman and Roberto Orci, otherwise known as the guys who wrote the Star Trek reboot and the Transformers movies.
Well, they wrote the Star Trek reboot, which is good, but if you wrote the Transformers movies, it should be promising so long as Michael Bay doesn't show up and start going, "Give me racial stereotypes."
Spider-Man swinging through the city. I want every building he swings onto to explode.
Yeah.
No, I think they're keeping Michael Bay away from this. I'm pretty certain that Mark Webb will come back for the sequel, so we're all right there.
I thank Christ for that.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering. Because the bad guy, the villain in the first Amazing Spider-Man film is going to be the Lizard, isn't it?
Yep.
So I'm wondering who they're going to go for in the second one, if they're going to just have him come back.
Well.
Or maybe they'll go for another one that they haven't used yet, because, I mean, they've used... Who have they used? They've used Doc Ock, the Green Goblin, Sandman and Venom, and then Green Goblin coming back. So they've got, they could use Scorpion or that Electro guy.
Well, I read a story this week. Mark Webb has discussed 3 of his favourite villains from the Spider-Man universe. One of whom is Mysterio. One of whom is Kraven, the Hunter. And I forget the third one now. I think it was Green Goblin. So obviously we've had a bit of a Goblin overload from the last 3 movies, so I think they'll probably keep him out the way until the third one of this trilogy, and obviously do the Death of Gwen Stacy storyline then. But I think the next movie, I mean, they've missed a trick here by having the Lizard in, because he could have done Kraven hunting down the Lizard. Now, I mean, one way you could do it if you're going to stick Kraven into a sequel is you could say that, he's been watching TV from wherever he is in Russia or whatever, and that he's seen a giant lizard, a giant spider, and he decides he comes to New York and he wants to hunt down, the Lizard or Spider-Man or whatever. That's one way to do it, I suppose. How you would, because I don't think Kraven will be strong enough in a movie to have on his own, because he has really no superpowers at all. He has heightened senses, but that's it. And that's not going to really cut it in just a Spider-Man movie all on his own. So who would you have in a sequel with him?
Well, that's the thing. Like you said, they could have had the whole lizard thing.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe like if the lizard came back and then they had him with it.
Yeah.
Or like I don't know.
Well, I'm sure we'll find out. That's even if it's Craven in the sequel. We just don't know. We'll have to find out when they announce, I suppose. And my final piece of movie news that I've got this week is again dealing with the Marvel movies into films. Marvel comics into films. I apologise if people think I've been heavily biased on the Marvel movies at this point, but that's the only news that's been out this week. As it's been announced at again CinemaCon that CEO of 20th Century Fox, Tom Rothman, has announced that they're going to be moving on a movie of the New Mutants as kind of an X-Men spin-off. Now, I'm not all too familiar with the New Mutants. I believe it's got Nate Gray, which is X-Man. It's got, is it Sunspot, I think? Wolfsbane's in it.
To Wikipedia.
Yeah. Now, if they do have Nate Gray, then that opens up a whole world of even more so, of confusion with regards to canon and, the timetable and what have you, because if you're going to have Nate Gray, then you need to explain that he's a cloned son of Scott Summers and Jean Grey and, Cable, and, it's going to be all kinds of confusing.
Yeah. Let's have a look. In New Mutants Volume 1, it's you've got Karma, Cannonball, Wolfsbane, Psyche, and Sunspot. And later teams, you've got like Magma, Magic, Warlock, Cypher. Trying to figure out who the newest, who's in the most modern team.
But the whole thing for me is New Mutants is about young superheroes basically forming a team. Now, isn't that what we just had with X-Men First Class?
Yeah, you'd think so.
Yeah. Makes you wonder why they're going to go forward with that when they've already got a franchise right there waiting for them.
Yeah, true.
Unless they were to merge the New Mutants into First Class. That would be interesting.
Yeah, because then you could have the First Class team teaching the New Mutants or something.
Yeah.
Now, the current members, according to Wikipedia, are Cypher, Magma, Sunspot, Warlock, X-Man, and then you've got Moonstar as the leader.
Right.
With the former members being Cannonball, Karma, and Magic.
Right. Okay, I've wanted to see Cannonball in an X-Men movie for so long now. I think he's a wicked character. And if you,
I'm not familiar with the New Mutants, unfortunately. The ones I'm mainly familiar with are like the old X-Men stuff, like in the cartoon and in the movies and stuff. And the ones I've been reading are like Wolverine. I've seen in like bits where he's appeared in Avengers, like where the Avengers have crossed over into stories I've read, or like his aspect of Moon Knight's personality, because Moon Knight, Moon Knight, is a bit like schizo.
Yeah, he's got multiple personalities, such disorder. Yeah,
and in the current series going on, is there's the three different aspects that he talks to, which take the forms of Wolverine, Captain America, and Spider-Man.
Nice. And
so I'm familiar with that Wolverine as well. And then like Daken, who's Wolverine's son, and X-23, who's
just clone,
like
female clone, isn't it?
Yeah, the female clone of Wolverine. And then like bits and bobs I've seen of other things. I'm not too familiar with the actual ongoing like X-Men titles and stuff.
Yeah, it's all too confusing for me at this point, to be honest with you. I mean, if they were to do a New 52, I'd probably jump in, but that's one of the reasons I like the Ultimate line, is because the 616 universe just got so diluted and so confusing. It was really difficult to keep up. I mean, Doc Ock at the moment is he's just basically this head with an octopus body now, and it's all,
Wait, what?
Yeah, oh yeah. In the storylines they've been doing recently, I forget what the overarching story name is, but basically Octavius is gathered together the Sinister Six, and they've done. But Octavius is now he's trying to get revenge on Spider-Man because he's basically just been reduced to this head with a robotic body with octopus limbs. That's all he is. I mean, there's pictures online. I'm sure you'll be able to find it, but it's really weird. I long for the fat old German guy who had some 4 arms sticking out of his back. That's Doc Ock for me. Yeah. So, well, that's it for the movie news. That's all I've got. I'm going to hand over to yourself now, sir, and you're going to take us through the latest stuff in the world of comics.
Squirm in fear. It's time to talk comics.
Yes. So, on to comics. The main 2 stories I'm gonna start us off with Spider-Man mini-series they're doing,
right.
where they're actually doing a crossover between the classic Marvel, the 616 Marvel universe, and the Ultimate Comics universe.
This is the first time they've done that, isn't it?
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, and it's to celebrate Peter Parker's 50th anniversary, and then they've been playing off like the villain as Mysterious, according to comicbookresources.com, and now we know why, because it's Mysterio. He's going to be the one who brings Peter Parker and the new Ultimate Spidey, Miles Morales, together for an adventure, because apparently he's been crossing between the worlds anyway, so obviously they're going to figure out some way that he brings either Miles Morales to the 616 or Peter Parker back to the Ultimate universe.
I'd like them to take Parker back to Ultimate, because, I mean, can you imagine the look on his face? Grown up Parker goes to the Ultimate universe and he sees Aunt May and Gwen Stacy and everyone still alive. That
would be pretty cool.
Most
and then
the
everyone
point...
coming up to him going, well, I thought you were dead.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Most of the point is how would they react to seeing him?
That would be pretty cool to see. I'm just wondering what sort of things Mysterio is going to be up to that takes 2 Spider-Men to bloody take him down.
Wow.
But I'm sure we'll
have to read the book.
We'll have to find out.
Really.
That's one I'm going to have to pick up when it comes out, or at least get the trade of. And then the other story I've got is that the Flashpoint event that happened before to lead all the DC comics into the New 52 is apparently expected to be the next DC comic storyline that they're going to turn into an animated feature.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so voice actor Kevin Conroy, who's played Batman, apparently let the project slip during an interview with Comic Book Club. He said,
I did just last night. I recorded a new animated movie that features the Flash. It's more about the Flash, but Batman is in it as well.
Damn straight.
It's Flashpoint.
Yeah,
Flashpoint.
So
well, it wouldn't be a DC animated movie if Batman weren't in it somewhere.
No. Although it'd be fun. I want to check some of the Flashpoint stuff out anyway, because I want to read that, because apparently the Batman's stories in that were really good, and they're based around Thomas Wayne being Batman rather than Bruce.
Oh, right.
Yeah, because instead of Bruce Wayne seeing his parents murdered, it was Thomas Wayne seeing his wife and son murdered instead.
Well, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, and he, as his day job, he runs loads of casinos and stuff like that. And then there's stuff like Wonder Woman and Aquaman being married and having this. They have this whole. I believe it's that, and they've leading armies of Atlanteans and stuff against people. Hal Jordan never got the ring. He's a jet fighter pilot, and what else was there? Superman, when he landed, it wasn't the farmers and stuff that found him. It was the military.
Right.
Yeah, it was the military. So he's stuck in a facility like a bajillion miles underground.
I was going to say, I could be
loads of
looking
tests
away,
on him and stuff. Yeah. So I've wanted to read the Superman one and the Batman line. So I'm really curious to see how they'd make a Flashpoint cartoon, like an animation.
Which Flash is it? Is it Wally West or Barry Allen or?
It's Barry Allen.
Right.
I believe. Yeah, because for some reason I can't remember what the setup is, but yeah, it looks promising. I can't wait to see what they do with that.
Yeah, definitely.
That'd be
certainly
pretty awesome.
I mean, I've liked most of the DC animators that they've done. I mean, Justice League 2, the most recent one, really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed that. Justice League, what was it? The one that was like set like in the 30s, kind of.
The only ones I've seen really, I've seen the old like the Justice League cartoons and stuff, where it was the Green Lantern and it was what was his name?
The black guy.
John Stewart.
Yeah.
That's it.
Justice League: The New Frontier. Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't.
Oh, you should. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I really need to look up the. Mostly what I've seen, like Justice League characters and stuff in now that are in like Batman: The Brave and the Bold, because I watch that quite often with my son,
right?
Because he's a big fan of Batman: The Brave and the Bold, so which is another reason why I'm like less of a fan of Hal Jordan and like the main ones, and like why in the comics I like Guy Gardner and
see my favorite
John Stewart's Lanterns. And
my favorite Green
like
Lantern's Kyle Rayner, because that's the point where I started reading some Green Lanterns when Kyle was, because the whole thing about that was Hal had just been possessed by Parallax and destroyed the entire Green Lantern Corps. So I always thought that Hal was a bit of a shit, really. So
yeah,
that's why I was never into it.
I do like his character a little bit in the new DC universe, but I prefer his character in Justice League, because in the ongoing of Green Lantern, I picked up issue 1 because I got all 52 of the issue 1s.
Oh, right.
And it was basically him. He'd somehow lost the ring, and he was basically. It's like someone on the. Like Jared on the Superfly Comics podcast said, it was basically the storyline. They should have just called the book "Broke Hal Jordan,"
right?
Because it was basically just him struggling to have a job, and then he just looks like this one scene where he looks out the window in someone's and sees what he thinks is a man like assaulting a woman in her house. So he jumps out his window, like crashes through theirs and almost falls out because he doesn't have his powers, and it turns out to be a film set. Oh. So, yeah, I wasn't too keen of that. I haven't seen much of him.
Yeah, you're really gearing me up to read these new 52. Yeah, because that's what I want out of my comics, is seeing a man crashing through a window onto a movie set, yeah.
Well,
I
like I said, I wasn't really too much of a fan of Green Lantern. What I can recommend is the Batman ongoing by Scott Snyder. That is amazing.
Well, Batman's Batman, isn't he? You know.
Yeah.
I saw a great image on the internet. You know, people do them fake motivational posters. Yeah. I saw one, all these different Earths, and it said multiple realities, because on one of them you are Batman, or something like that. And it's just like, yes. Why can't that be this universe? But yeah.
Yeah. That's everyone's wish, though. The last thing I'm going to do for this section is actually recommend 2 titles for anyone listening to read.
Okay, go for it.
Now, I'm going to go this week. I'm going to go for some relatively new ones, apart from the Batman, which I just recommended. I'm not going to go into detail with that because you know what Batman is. Yeah. The ones I can recommend is: have you ever seen the cartoon Adventure Time?
No, I can't say I have.
Adventure Time with Finn and Jake. It's mainly a kids show, but it's insane. Kind of like, you know how trippy SpongeBob SquarePants can get.
Oh yes, my daughter loves it.
It's even worse than that.
Really?
Yeah, it's set in a post-apocalyptic universe. Kind of. The only reference you get of that is in the intro, because the intro starts off in like a barren landscape, and you see like nuclear bombs and like old TVs and like broken wreckage and stuff around. And then it zooms and it's got all these magical kingdoms and all sorts of weird stuff like this, and like Marceline the Vampire Queen,
right?
Who she's amazing. She like instead of drinking blood, she drinks the color red, and like does all this weird stuff. And like Finn's this is the human out of there's Finn and Jake. Jake's this dog that talks, and he's got magic powers, magic stretchy powers, and Finn's just this human who wanders around with them. They go around like with swords, and it sounds like they're basically the entire time playing D&D. Occasionally you get lines where he's like, "Oh, I've failed my role," and random stuff like that. And it's like, what's going on?
Yeah.
It's utterly crazy. And the comic book, I've just read issue 1, and the comic of that, it's pretty much exactly the same as the TV show. So if you're a fan of the TV show, you need to check out the comic book, because it's crazy. And they've even got like between the panels in the gaps between the panels, you've got text written in it and stuff, adding to whatever it's talking about. And like I said, if you're a fan of that series, you need to look that book up because it's great.
Okay.
And then the other one I'm going to recommend is an IDW title called Smoke and Mirrors. Basically, it's set in a world where instead of science, it's everything's run by magic.
Right.
So everyone just uses spells and that in their day-to-day life. And this kid's learning about it, but he walks past this like street performer doing magic tricks using like traditional sleight of hand and stuff like that.
Right.
Which he's like completely amazed by, and it's like a really cool premise. And in the issues, it's actually written by a proper like stage performer magician. So in the end of at the end of each issue, he hasn't done it in issue 1, but I think from issue 2 onwards, in the back is going to be instructions for how to do a magic trick.
All right.
So
that'd be interesting.
Yeah, it seems I've not got around to reading that yet. I've just had a flick through, but from the premise itself, that seems like a really cool book to pick up.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyone listening, go and buy those.
Sounds all right by me. That's it. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Well, that's Andy's recommendation for the week. And also brings us quite neatly to the end of the comics section. So we're going to move right on now, back onto viewable media, and we're heading into the TV section.
Tremble at the might of the TV section.
Only got one story this week with regards to TV. Did you watch Smallville at all, sir?
No, I didn't. I wasn't really too much of a fan of Smallville. I saw occasional episodes.
Well,
it was a bit to me.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I watched about half of the first season and it just didn't seem right. Just something didn't. You can't do Superman without Superman. Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And the longer and longer that show went on, the more he went off and like went to work at the Daily Planet and what have you, and he was walking around without his glasses on. Eventually, the day will come when he has to become Superman. What's he gonna do? Start wearing glasses in his...
Well, that's apparently what he did in the last series. Like for the last half of the series, he just started randomly getting a stutter and having to wear glasses.
Oh, so when Superman comes along, people aren't going to say, "Oh, he looks exactly like Clark has done for the last 10 years."
Yeah.
Come on.
That's why everyone, by the time it got to everyone I know that's talked about it anyway, it got to the season like the end of Smallville, and they were just like, "Yeah, this was a bit rubbish."
Yeah.
Because then at the very end, you don't even see him in the suit.
Yeah. Well, you see like a tiny CGI version of him way off in the distance.
Yeah, something like that.
You don't get a good look at him at all. Well, because Smallville was such a big hit for the for the TV stations over in America, they wanted to do a spin-off for a while. They originally, whilst Smallville was still airing, tried to do an Aquaman pilot. That unfortunately didn't get very well received. The pilot is out there. I think they actually released it onto DVD at some point, so it might be a bonus feature on the Smallville set. I'm not entirely sure. Obviously, they then went off and tried to do the Wonder Woman pilot, which is dreadful. As we covered previously, they were going to do a Green Arrow spin-off, which has been cancelled. Got cancelled before. I think they were halfway through shooting, decided not to do that.
Oh, have they actually decided not to do that?
Oh, yeah,
now?
yeah, been cancelled. Got cancelled. They've decided. Well, Sci-Fi Channel, or Sci-Fi, as it's known these days, or Sci-Fi, or whatever you want to pronounce it, SYFY. They're going ahead with a pilot for Booster Gold.
Oh, God.
Appeared in I believe it was the final series of Smallville.
Yeah. Can't imagine a Booster Gold show being very, to me, from what I've seen, he doesn't seem very identifiable as a character, because all I've ever seen is, he's going, I don't know if the Booster Gold in Smallville is the same as in the normal DC universe, that he's, from the future.
Yeah, I believe so. I'm not entirely sure. I've not seen it, but...
Basically, all that he does is he put on a random suit and came back in time, and he uses his knowledge of the future to solve crimes, and he's basically doing it for publicity and fame. It's like the article you found on Digital Spy that you gave me the link for, the clip of from Smallville season 10 of Booster Gold. I mean, him on YouTube, the video. The YouTube video, the place it stopped currently, before you press play, it's got Booster Gold underneath it, and the S in Booster is a $sign.
Oh, God. Well, I've just gone onto Wikipedia here, and it says Booster Gold in Smallville. Booster Gold in Smallville says, much like in the comics, Booster is portrayed as a fame-seeking superhero from the future who travels back in time to become a superstar. So he is from the future, yeah, and he teams up with Blue Beetle.
Well, Blue Beetle's a cool character.
Not for me, I'll be honest with you.
Ever since I saw him in the Batman Brave and the Bold series, I've been a fan of Blue Beetle. It depends which one you go for, but I've been a fan of the current Blue Beetle. Although in the new DC 52, I was a bit I don't know whether to get his. The ongoing book. I might just get it in trade because I was already getting too many tiles.
Well, I believe they actually tried. I don't know if you ever saw it. They tried to do a pilot of a Blue Beetle TV series. There's a sequence out there of him tooling up, getting the suit on and what have you. It'll be on YouTube somewhere. If you look up for Blue Beetle live action, I'm sure you'll see it.
I'll have to have a look.
Yeah, I know they tried to get that off the ground and that failed. Much like the proposed pilot of the Graysons, a Dick Grayson, Smallville type series, which would have, which doesn't really make much sense to me. I mean, what do you do with that? Is it set before or after his parents died? Because if it is, it's just, a kid in a circus coming from town to town. I'm sure he'd be fighting small time hoods and what have you. Or is it after his parents have died, but he's living on the streets or something like that before he meets Batman? Or I don't know. But you can see why that never went ahead anyway. But Booster Gold is clearly being worked on at the moment. It says the show will star Michael John Carter, the morally dubious, publicity-hungry hero who previously appeared in the final season of Smallville, again from Digital Spy. So we'll have to see if that one comes to fruition, but if it's anything like the other DC TV series, then don't hold high hopes.
Yeah.
As I say, that was the only TV story I had this week, so we're going to move on to the Any Other Business section.
Any other business?
Okay, got a couple of stories here. The first one I'm going to go to is... now, you know about online dating sites. Everyone knows about online dating sites. I mean, I've heard for them all over the telly these days. That the one that does my head in is that one, the guy on the train platform playing the ukulele.
Oh, God,
it just drives me mad. Plus, it freaks me out at the end of the advert. She's sitting on the other side of the platform, and then the train goes past, and when the train's gone, she's not there. She's sitting next to him on his bench. What, did she teleport over or something? Because there's no way anyone could get over the platform that quickly. It weirds me out. Well, obviously we've had human dating sites for a long time. Someone has set up matchpuppy.com, which is a website for dogs, as you do. Yeah, it's the tagline for the website is "It's a dog meet dog world."
Yeah,
I can only assume it's for people who want to get into breeding or something. Maybe I don't quite know, or maybe people who want.
But they've got Well, if it's the case for breeding, that's been going on for ages. This is just a new way of presenting it as an actual dating website compared to before, where it's like, oh, I've got a stud for breeding, and it's like, oh, I've got a bitch for breeding. Oh, well, here's your number. See what happens.
Well, this is, as you say, this is probably a new way of doing it. It's either going to be that, or people who get lonely when the dog walking and want to find someone in their area who also walks their dog around similar places. Yeah,
and they'll be like, oh, our dogs love each other.
Now, the Huffington Post report on this saying that the reason why it's been put together is people tending to do Facebook or Twitter pages for their dog. So why not have an online dating? I mean, my uncle does a Facebook page for his dog, and I've always been like, why? Because he doesn't update it. It's like you put some photos of the dog on there. It's not like the dog is putting a status on there saying like, oh, just chewing on a bone or anything like that. It'll just say like, oh, just been down the park with Ben or whatever the dog's called. I can't remember. I know we used to have a dog called Ben, but it died. I don't know the new one. So so it's just like, what's the point? What is the point?
To quote the top comment in the comments section is, seriously, what in the name of sanity is the point in that?
I like the one underneath that. It says, we're the profiles for cats.
Yeah, that is a fair point.
Yeah, we demand equality. I think the whole point of having a story like that is so you can have some comedy comments on the bottom. Like there's someone just put on, I bet there's some right dogs on that website. Well, so there's that story, and also another story, which isn't for the faint of heart, isn't for the queasy, so just be warned. So this article says a woman in Poland is facing jail time after she, well, I'm not going to say exactly what she's done just yet, but needless to say that she was dumped by her boyfriend, and they had a relationship other than boyfriend and girlfriend. And this fool decided, even after he dumped her, it was still okay to see her. The relationship that they had was that she was his dentist. So he went to see her complaining that he had some toothache, and she said, oh, don't worry, I'll sort you out. Decides to put him to sleep, and whilst he's asleep, removes every single one of his teeth. Yeah.
Jesus.
Every single one, all 32 of his teeth. Now, what she did then is she then wrapped his head in bandages so he wouldn't immediately notice the difference. He wakes up and says, oh, I can't feel anything. She says, oh, don't worry, that's just the anaesthetic. He goes home, takes the bandages off, and he's got less teeth than me none.
No.
Yeah.
I just like the quote that what she told reporters. She said, I tried to be professional and detach myself from my emotions, but when I saw him lying there, I just thought, what a bastard.
I mean, why would you go back? If your girlfriend is your dentist and you've just dumped her, you wouldn't go back and say, oh, will you do us a favour, knock me out and take a look at me teeth. He was just asking for that, really, wasn't he?
But to be fair, I wouldn't. If you were going out with your dentist in the first place, you'd bloody swap dentists.
Well, yeah. So why you decided, I'll go back? I've got no sympathy for that. Well, I have, as much as he's had all his teeth removed. But come on, lad, use a bit of common sense, eh?
Yeah.
So she's looking for up to 3 years in prison due to medical malpractice. That's a bit of an RA, but again, use some common sense. Absolutely use some common sense. Just be glad she wasn't his urologist, that's all I'll say.
Yeah.
Oh, silly man. I remember I told my mum that story last night, and she was just like, why would you even tell me something like that? That's disgusting. My dad came in.
So you're like, well, it's got to go on the podcast.
Yeah, there we go. My dad came in. He was like, well, serves him right. Well, that's the end of the stories that I've got this week then. The only section that remains left for us to do is we're going to head into the good old favourites, the favourites of yesteryear. We're moving into Flashback.
Behold the awesomeness of things that once were in Flashback.
And this week's Flashback is, of course, the fantastic, everyone loved it, if you're a child of the 90s, animated series that was X-Men.
Yes.
Oh, God, I mean, what a show. From the opening theme tune, which is fantastic, I'm sure, like the Ninja Turtles last week, you're going to put that on the end of the pod for us.
Oh, yeah, I will.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to find someone actually did like a metal cover of it.
Oh,
so
really?
I I may either put that or put both of them at the end.
Right. Okay. Well, I shall be excited to hear which one you choose, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, the 90s X-Men animated series. Now, I remember first seeing this. I think they put it as, when they split the cartoons in two. I think it was on during Live and Kicking. Excuse me.
Yeah.
During Live and Kicking. And it started with, to access the world of the X-Men, they did Jubilee, discovering her powers for the first time, and then the Sentinel program was being introduced as well, and the Sentinels came and tried to take Jubilee away, and then the X-Men came and saved her. And it all went from there. And but it wasn't. This wasn't your normal, everyday cartoons. This wasn't your Captain Planets or anything like that. People died in this one. I remember at the end of the first two-parter, this character Morph, who'd been created solely for the animated series, I believe he did get put into the comics later. He died. He got killed in the. They were trying to break. He was
created solely to be a red shirt.
Yeah, pretty much. But they brought him back later, obviously going back to comic book death we were talking about last time.
Yeah.
But, when he came back from the dead, he was mental. His mind was completely split, and he wanted to destroy the X-Men purely because they left him behind. They left him for dead. And it was... the series itself, they went places with it. They actually decided to do adaptations of comic storylines. Some of the ones they did the Days of Future Past. They did a bit of Age of Apocalypse in there. They did all kinds.
I was going to say one storyline I do remember is Bishop coming back in time, and then showing the future, and the one image I remember is them having some base that they went in, and Wolverine's skeleton, like adamantium skeleton, being in the in that big tube thing.
That's right, yeah. That's a wicked moment. That. Let's see what other ones they did. Oh, they did the Shi'ar Empire. They did the Phoenix and the Dark Phoenix saga. Legacy Virus and the Phalanx Covenant, although that was right towards the end. They did some absolutely fantastic moments in there. The actual X-Men who were on the team kind of stayed the same the whole way through, but there was additional, moments of people jumping in and out. The standard team for the X-Men was Beast, Jubilee, Gambit, Jean Grey, Wolverine, Storm, Professor X, Cyclops, and Rogue. And so they were the
I know Nightcrawler kept appearing every so often.
Yeah, he did a couple of appearances. Iceman did a couple of appearances as well.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think who else. Colossus was in, I think, 1 or 2 episodes. They kept bringing in. They kept going to the Savage Land every 5 minutes. It felt like, so Kazar was in it by the minutes. I always remember there's an episode of Sauron, the pterodactyl guy.
Oh yeah,
I think it's either Mr. Sinister or Apocalypse gives him a device where he can become human, and he goes out and he travels to New York and starts sucking the life essence out of people to remain human, and the X-Men have to take him down. That's pretty cool. They had their version of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, which was generally Magneto, Mystique. I believe the Blob was in there, Pyro, Avalanche.
Yeah.
They had some. They also went into some Weapon X stuff as well, bringing in Maverick and Sabretooth.
I remember they had the flashback episodes, and that's where earlier I thought Wolverine had the relationship with Lady Deathstrike, because that's how they presented it in the 90s cartoon series, because those big spiky hands she'd had, it was mechanical, surgical implants or something.
Yeah, I've just looked up Morph on Wikipedia here. It says Morph was cast for the X-Men animated series as a throwaway character for the writers to kill in the opening story arc to sell the stark nature of the series. The character of Changeling, who would appear way back in the day, he replaced Professor X at one point and what have you. Changeling, or Morph, was chosen because of his past ties to the X-Men, as well as his long absence from Marvel Comics. So he wasn't completely created, but his backstory was completely changed for the cartoon. Being a deceased character in the Marvel canon, he was a blank slate, and the writers were free to do with him as they wanted, without fear of reprisal from fans. Morph's death was intended to be permanent, but he gained unexpected popularity and was brought back. Yeah, Sydney's, I think his real name was Sydney. His code name had to be changed from Changeling to Morph, as DC Comics had trademarked the Changeling name for a character who later became Beast Boy of Teen Titans fame. So there you go. Yeah. I'll always remember the X-Men series, less so than Spider-Man series. Had quite a fair few cameos from various Marvel superheroes. I mean, they had the crossover episode with Spider-Man, but that's actually technically classed as Spider-Man episodes, not an X-Men episode. Again, a couple of the characters like I believe Storm appears in the Secret Wars episodes of the Spider-Man animated series. But there's other stuff like Captain Britain. You see at one point, I believe Captain America's in there somewhere. I don't know if they actually have lines, but they're in there. You see people every now and again. It's pretty cool. I'd say, I mean, it's a cracking series, and I think it's available on DVD now. I think, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've definitely advised people to check that out. I mean, do you have any specific storylines that were your favourites from watching it, or?
Like I say, I remember bits and bobs. I remember enjoying all of it. I liked the all the Wolverine Weapon X centric ones where they were delving into his past. I was always keen on those, and some of the Apocalypse stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't think of specific examples. Just go and watch all of the season,
Definitely.
all of the thing.
Definitely go and check it out, people.
It's on. If you have Netflix, it's on Netflix.
Oh, is it? Oh, that's
yeah.
That's cool. I've had it on. I've had the actual episodes for quite some time. I had them on VHS for a long time, and it's definitely one that I would recommend. Of all the X-Men series that there have been, I'd certainly say that's the best. Well, that pretty much wraps up the show for us, people. I hope you've enjoyed it, and that's the end of this one. If you want to get in touch with us, as I said at the top of the show, you can always email us to 50footnerds@gmail.com or tweet us at 50footnerds.
If you want, you can always get in touch with us individually as well.
That's right. Yep.
On Twitter.
You can catch me at Mike G Bell. That's MikeGBELL.
And mine is Vaults of Extoth. Vaults of EXTOTH. All one word.
I'd like to thank everyone for listening, and if you can let other people know that you've enjoyed the show, or even if you haven't, just let them know about us so they can take a listen for themselves. Just spread the word, people, because we want as many people to listen to this podcast as possible. And as I say, get in touch, let us know what you think, because if you don't like it, we can't make it better if you don't tell us.
No.
Yeah. Okay. So until next time, then watch out for the Avengers review episode. For Attack of the 50 Foot Nerds, my name has been Mike Bell.
I'm Andy Weirs.
And Geek Out.
If you've enjoyed the nerddom in your ears, then please follow us on Twitter at 50footnerds, or email us anything except spam at 50footnerds@gmail.com.
Go, our dogs love each other.